you had your goal, you had your vision, your dream, and you were going after it. You weren't really like considering, will this work or will this fail? You kind of were like, this is what we're doing.
There's lessons that were flops, and I knew they were flops from the beginning, and then I had to pivot. I watched all the free stuff that I could for the last 3 years, and now I've started watching the Venue RX and taking those nuggets for how to run the business now. And I think that it's just teaching myself, okay, well, this isn't gonna work. How do I fix that?
You're listening to the Venue RX podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX, and on this channel we are passionate about documenting and sharing best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues. And we really have a lot of fun documenting so many people's journeys here, so many venue owners' journeys here on the podcast, on our Venue Owner series, and that's the type of show that we have for you today. I love these shows because we get to connect with venue owners, hear what's working right, maybe hear some of the mistakes they've made, the things that they've learned as a part of their journey. And I'm really excited because this is really where the rubber hits the road, right? This is where all of the things kind of come into play, and actually the strategy and everything that you hear actually starts working, right? And so it's something that we can learn from. I'm really excited today to welcome Teira from Firebrand Cocolalla to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Nice to be here. We're excited. I'm excited to be here. So look forward to the show.
Yeah, well, I am excited to have you. First, tell me where Cocolalla is. You got it. It's a fantastic name. Tell me where you guys are located.
So we are a tiny, tiny town in between Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where the Floating Green is, and then Spokane, Washington. Those are our two big cities. We have up north is Sandpoint. So we're smack dab in the middle of two large cities. So we are in the panhandle of North Idaho, essentially.
Got it. Very cool. And usually I like to start these off kind of diving a little bit into your own personal journey, why the wedding and events industry? How did you get started with Firebrand? What was kind of your inspiration behind getting started in this industry? And then we'll unpack some of the stuff as far as the venue goes.
Awesome. So I actually taught at a local high school, a Lakeland High School, for 8 years. And with that, I quickly became the prom advisor. I taught a 2-year hospitality and tourism program. And so we were actually located at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, and I taught juniors and seniors the ins and outs of the industry, both front of house, back of house, for hotels and conventions. And that's kind of what got me really interested in the hospitality industry. I knew that was a part of my blood. My dad runs restaurants and I love it. I'm not a big restaurant person, so I knew that wasn't the avenue I wanted to go. I planned proms for 7 years of those 8 teaching, and we actually had our house burned down, and that kind of pivoted us. That was in 2018, and I had a chance to kind of change careers, change pathways. And with teaching, I loved the students. There was just some other aspects that I didn't want to continue, and I had this opportunity to change. And not a lot of people have that. With everything that happened, I was able to change my career completely, and I went into the hospitality industry. My husband loves working on the land. He is my Chip to my Joanna, and I envision it, and he literally brings it to life. So he was on board. He was like, okay, we're doing the wedding venue. So with planning proms, I worked with a lot of students, a lot of seniors that were like, I want my day to look this way and that way. I work with one bride at a time now. And so it's been kind of nice to just be a part of one of the happiest days of someone's life, and knowing that it's so critical to get it correct. That's kind of what we strive for, is making our couples' lives a little less stressful. So
that's so cool. That's really inspiring that you were able to shift over. And you said something like, not a lot of people get that chance. And you're so right. A lot of times you get started on a career path and then you just keep getting deeper and deeper into it. And that's neat that you were able to take that leap. How much do you credit your house burning down and that kind of like upsetting your your status quo in life, how much do you credit that with actually transitioning over and making this career switch?
100%. I am a type A person. I go to school, I finish high school, I go to college, I get a career, and that's kind of what my brain told me I needed to do. My husband is my polar opposite. He is like, yes, let's go do this. Let's go do that. And I am, no way. And so for me, I was like, I have this career. I love my students. I love what I do. This is my calling. And that kind of made me shift. It just allowed me to say, hey, I want to find joy in every aspect of my life. And like I said, I love my students. And actually, I had 4 of my students get married at the property last year. And so it's just kind of, I accredit it 100%. I always try to reinvent myself every 5 years or so within my career, but this was way outside my comfort zone. But I paid off my student loans, and so I felt good. I was like, okay, that's taken care of. Now I can move on.
That's so cool. Well, I love that. I've heard from a lot of different venue owners that they, when they switch careers, you are bringing kind of your experiences and everything to bear as you're starting to start a venue. Do you feel like you brought anything professionally maybe that you learned as a teacher or in hospitality before, and has that kind of informed what you do now on the venue side of things?
Yes, I think that with planning so many events, not just prom. I was student council advisor for another 5 years of that. And I think just really being able to sit and listen to people's needs. And my goal is to try to create create a day that meets those needs and exceeds those needs. And even with proms, I tried to do that. But I feel like with our venue, we literally listened to all of the vendors, what they needed, what they wanted. I spoke to so many potential brides and vendors that I would be working with when we were developing our land. And my husband hears it all the time, like, what would the couples want? What would the couples need? And with school and being a teacher, I was obviously meeting the needs of my students. And then also, I can work in chaos. I love chaos. And so dealing with like 30 high school students from, not knowing whether I'm liked today or not liked today, that kind of just allowed me to, if there's a mother-in-law, if there's, some type of dynamic, family dynamic, I'm there for the bride. I'm there for the groom. I'm there for whoever I'm supposed to be there for. I think that those were kind of the main things that I brought over from my profession.
That's huge. You're ready to be a very skilled business owner with the thick skin that you have to have. I mean, it is a lot of times it's like, herding cats, and whether it is, an employee team, whether it's students, right? I never was an educator, but I can only imagine we have 5 kids, and it's like, having all sorts of different personalities, everyone going every which way. You have to have that fortitude and, some patience too. Help me understand the life cycle of your venue thus far. Kind of give me a picture of where you're at in your venue. Have you just started? How many weddings have you booked? Kind of give me a bit of the origin story of the actual venue itself.
Okay, so we purchased the land in 2019, and we kind of sat on it for a minute. We knew we searched for it specifically for becoming a venue. We got engaged in 2019, and so we knew we were going to get married. And so we just needed to figure out the land itself. We bought 20 raw acres in Cocolalla, Idaho, where there's all the native Idaho trees. There's just a ton of trees. And so we took 2020 before we knew what COVID had in store for us. And my husband actually spent 30 days in March from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. on an excavator, just plotting out the land. There was a lot of, no, I want this. No, I want that. The land doesn't allow that. And so when I say he is my chip, I mean it, because he literally sent me out there with with a spray gun and tape to tape off where I wanted my pods and where I wanted everything. And so we finally got it up and going to a point where we could, walk on there. We could see the vision. And then my mom finally said, hey, are you going to actually make this a venue or not? Because you need to get married. And so that was May of 2021. And so from May to August, we brought in the white crushed granite. We brought in the bark. We really started to see it come together. And it was my mom, my dad, and my husband. I actually had a 9-month-old at the time, so I was just project manager. He was out there with us, burning trees and just out, exploring the land with us. And then we got married August 7th of 2021. I told my photographer, I want this to be about us, but we're also starting a venue. So you could get some good shots of all the things. And so we became the faces of Firebrand Cocolalla. And then we opened up our business, and I really focused on Instagram. I know it sounds silly, but I paid for Facebook ads, and I then said, hey, please share this with my family and friends. And I got triple the views, triple the shares that I was paying. And so we used our wedding to market, and we had 12 weddings last year. And then this year we're booked for 24.
Wow,
and then
that's
we have
great.
8 for next year. So
that's great. What are your goals as far as the amount of weddings? Because I mean, people like to do different things with their venues. Sometimes, keep it, to 20, 25, 30 weddings. Some people do over 100. So where's your goal?
So we have just started. So we have, this was the first step. We didn't take out any loans for it. We bought the land as our own, like we live on the land, on the property. We've not taken out any loans. And so we're saving that for to build an indoor venue. So for right now, 30 is our max. I kind of pivoted and created an elopement package for Monday through Thursday. We have a ridge that you can go up to. We've got really nice chairs and tables that we're going to set up, create kind of a micro wedding. With that, I don't know how many, I haven't thought of that yet, but that's just to generate more. But 30 weddings is what we could logistically do with Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. We live in a very cold climate, and so we can't do any weddings past October. So we don't do October. So we are from end of May to September.
So that's kind of Idaho.
Indoor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, got it. So Idaho is really a very seasonal wedding state then.
We are about 40 minutes south of Canada. So we are way up high there. So we still have about 2.5 feet of snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Now we're praying for the sun.
I can imagine. When does it start warming up? So tell me again your booking window or your season?
Yeah, end of May. Last June was like seasonably rainy. So it was more like our Mays, but we made do. We bought umbrellas for over our tables. We now have a we are set for cold, rainy weather. But yeah, so we warm up, the ground thaws about April, which is when we do all of our grooming of the land, essentially. We have our bridal suite and our groom suite. Our groom suite is a wall tent, and our bridal suite is a bell tent. And so we just really decked that out with really nice furniture. People are very surprised when they walk in. We've got AC units in there, but we can't put those up until last year. They weren't up until May. So it's we had a lot of faithful brides that said, I trust you. I put on my Instagram, they voted on the furniture. I really let them be a part of the process because I want them to trust me. I want them to know I have your best interest in mind. I promise. So that's incredible. And it's amazing. I mean, you went from everything that happened in COVID. That must have been really kind of nerve-wracking because you said first shovel was in the ground kind of before everything started. Were you concerned at all as you kind of saw what was happening? I know each state handled it differently, but was there ever a moment that you were like, did we totally have the wrong timing on this? Or did it feel like, awesome air cover for you to actually do the construction and get this done before things reopened? I think that it was the latter. I'm a dreamer. My husband's the realist. My mom is the realist. It wasn't until after I was like, hey, we've got this many booked. Oh, hey, we've got this many booked, that my mom was like, whew, we were nervous. And I was like, what? For me, I just felt that it was right. We keep our prices reasonable. We make money, but we're not trying to like nickel and dime anybody. We really set our price. We know who our perfect client is. We are trying to advertise to those people. And so with what we offer, we felt like we were very reasonable without undercutting any of the competition. I was very diligent on, looking at other venues. I'd been to a few with friends getting married. And so for me, I just thought, this is great. This is wonderful. It wasn't until after I'd booked the 12 weddings that, because actually we only had 7 booked, and then May hit of last year and we booked the rest of them. So we had a lot of quick weddings that I was like, whoa, we're booking up. So our goal was 8 weddings, and we surpassed that. And so for me, I just thought, awesome. And then I realized that like mom, grandma, all the people were very concerned with our decision. But
I love that.
yeah.
It's so cool that you had the honestly, not even like bravery or courage necessarily, although I know there's probably some of that as well, but like you were focused. It sounds like you had your goal, you had your vision, your dream, and you were going after it. You weren't really like considering, will this work or will this fail? You kind of were like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I think that has a lot to do with I know I bring up teaching again, but there's lessons that were flops, and I knew they were flops from the beginning, and then I had to pivot. And if I've learned anything from, I've not taken Kristen Binford's class, but literally I've been obsessed with her videos, and I've watched all the free stuff that I could for the last 3 years, and I've just taken all those nuggets, and now I've started watching the Venue RX and taking those nuggets for how to run the business now. And I think that it's just teaching myself, okay, well, this isn't going to work. How do I fix that? That's where the elopement package actually came from. I had 3 couples that just said, hey, we're going to elope instead. And so they canceled early enough for us to fill their spots. But I was like, holy cow, like I need to find something to keep these people here and just make it worth their while. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I guess blind faith and a lot of education.
I love it. And that's how you have to be and almost stay, right? Like as trends continue to change, as you want to make your venue better, I'm sure it sounds like you're very creative. So probably that process will continue for some time. Can you tell me, I know you mentioned Kristen, you mentioned here on the podcast, are there other people and maybe it was those 2, but are there inspirational resources or resources essentially? Are there resources that you learned from as a part of your journey building your venue?
For building the venue, mainly it was Kristen Binford's, just the new venue owner Facebook group. And you have to deep dive. You've got to, like, I participate in the conversations. I ask questions. But as far as like marketing, I think that's a big thing, because I hear that from some of the marketing. We have network marketing groups up here in North Idaho that we'd been involved in. And we had one person say, we've owned this for 3 years and we've not booked. And it's like, you have to be able to like, yeah, I was like, holy, and Cruz was looking at me like, Teira, just keep doing what you're doing. Cause I'm the face of the company. I'm on Instagram all the time. I'm on Facebook. And for me, I utilize social marketing strategies. I know that sounds so silly because I'm not a social media marketer, but I follow very inspirational people, Canva, just making your online presence key and getting that there. But I think that it was just like my mom and my dad are very good at hosting people and making them feel good. And I just think of my couples as like, you're coming to my, I don't want to say home, but you're coming to my property, and they love it just as much as we love it. And finding the right people, like you can't change the venue. Like we can't change much for your day. So you have to love what we're offering you. Sorry, I kind of went off on
No,
a little tangent there.
that totally answers the question. Let's get into some of your packages and let's get into actually the property. What are you doing now in terms of packages? If you're willing to share pricing, that'd be awesome. Just kind of like unpack a little bit what that looks like when getting married on your property.
So we are very transparent. I know there's like this 50-50 of do you show prices, do you not? I was a bride. A lot of what I'm doing now was I was a bride 2 years ago, and it was frustrating, like having to contact them and then them not get back to you forever. So for me, our packages are all online. We try to be as super simple as possible. So our Saturday package rate is for this coming year is $4,200. We supply tables, chairs, linens. We actually place the linens. We have an inventory on our Instagram of just little stuff that you might not want to buy and try to sell later on. So for decor, but really you don't need a ton where we're at. We are completely outdoor. So you are nestled in the woods. There's pathways in between trees. We've got tiers. So we really tried to create a space that you don't need a lot. So we have that package. We've got our Friday, Sunday packages. And again, those come with the same thing. You've got 12 hours of use at our property. You have a rehearsal. You can use the ridge for elopements, or not elopements, sorry, engagement photos. So you can come and take your photos there. And that is $3,800. So, and then our elopements are all inclusive. So we have worked with a vendor team. We've got florals for boutonniere and bouquet. We have a charcuterie board for up to 14 people. We will set 2 farmhouse tables, chairs for the ceremony, as well as the reception. And that is $4,500. So for up to 12 people.
That's awesome. And it's everything all together.
Yep, wrapped up. Oh, they'll get like a 2-tier cake, a champagne toast, and me as an officiant if they don't have that. So
very cool, very cool. How did you go about setting your pricing? Like what kind of informed those decisions? Yeah.
It was really hard because we're very, I know everybody says we're unique, we're different. But I just looked at some of the places that were nearest to us. So we've got, I think our closest she's actually like 4 miles away, but she's a ranch. She has a barn. I just looked at what they had and what they were offering. I looked at the cost of rentals. So what it costs to rent a dance floor, what it costs to rent tables, chairs, linens, because I want them to know that like our time is worth money, but also what you're receiving is worth the money. So a lot of looking into other people's venue prices. And then we're new, but I also didn't want to undercut people. I knew this wedding industry is small. And so we started at $3,200 last year. So we have jumped up $1,000, but it's from people saying, okay, you can keep your prices this way, but you need to raise your prices for next year. And so we have the bridal suite, the groom's suite. A lot of places around us don't have that, or they don't have like AC in there. So I just looked at, that was the hardest. That is the hardest part. And then justifying raising your prices is also very hard too. So,
well, and I was going to say though, the way that you've adjusted your prices isn't crazy huge. I mean, I've heard of venues starting in the high, hundreds, like $900, $1,000, $1,500. You very much started in I feel like, maybe lower price, right? Because you did raise the price, but you started in kind of a healthy range, and then you raised it once you had some things under your belt. When you think about the dates that you have available, are you focused on, kind of booking more prime dates out that you have on your calendar during that seasonal window? Or do you feel like there's going to be any possibility to book out dates that are more kind of on the shoulder, right? Those ones that are kind of in maybe the rainy season or as it gets a little bit colder, or just pretty much everything shut down?
So we actually had, these are the woes of the first year. We booked a wedding. So our last wedding of the season was September 27th. 27th this year. And then we had a photo shoot, a styled shoot that I was super excited for, October 9th. That was great. We could have closed up shop and been fine. But I pushed for us to be a part of a bridal show that was like touring, and that was October 23rd. That did not give us enough time to like shut everything down. And so we had a winter storm. And when I say winter storm, we had like 6 inches of snow at the next weekend. And so we didn't have our tents down. Our tents collapsed. We had to like, I was like in tears because my husband went out first, and I was like, is it okay? He's like, I don't know. I don't know if the furniture, I mean, like our furniture costs like double what our tents are. So I'm like, okay. So I was about to actually head out to wedding MBA the next weekend. And so that like, I literally the weekend before that was like in tears, pulling stuff out of these tents. Everything was fine except for the tents. So for us, no, we're not going to push to that. We might do the elopements. That's kind of where the elopements came through, was if someone wants to get married on our property in October, awesome. You can trudge up our hill. We will have, the tables and chairs set for you. But for the tents, until we have an actual structure, winter and weather conditions have kind of limited our availability, if you would. But we do have our prime dates. We had all of our Saturdays booked out. So we only had Friday, Sunday dates, and we've booked 5 Sundays so far. And so that was my fear, was like, people aren't going to want a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday. They just want Saturday. But no, people are like, we'll change. So, which makes me feel good. We're offering something that people want. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Congratulations first, just on the success, how it's been building. Really, really cool to hear. And you're totally right. Just going back to the pricing thing really quick. Pricing is tough. I mean, a lot of times you are so different from everyone around you. So like, how do you put a value on what you have versus someone else doesn't have, or maybe things that they have that you don't have? That is a tough conversation. So some of it is just like, based on all the information you have, kind of your best guess combined with, what does it cost to run the business?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, trial and error. That was like a big, like, throw it out. And if we have people, my fear was that we weren't going to have anybody book. People started booking. And so I was like, okay, then we're in the right realm. We weren't hearing, whoa, you're so cheap. That I did not want to hear that word either. So yeah, I don't wish that upon anybody in the first couple of months of creating this business.
Yeah, and you're doing everything. You're building the venue, you're pricing the venue. Let's talk about operations a little bit more. What are you doing for things like insurance? Are you requiring day of insurance? How about bar? Talk to me a little bit about both those things.
Okay, so insurance, I am like super concerned. Like I watched one of yours last time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to have insurance. So we've had insurance. My sister-in-law and her brother are in insurance, and so we actually cover it for our couples. We are covered until, knock on wood, something happens. And but we cover it for beer, wine, and champagne. If they have hard alcohol, we require them to get insurance their own day of, just so that liability, people change. They become different people when they're drinking hard alcohol. And we're so far out from cities. I mean, we're 20 minutes from the nearest city. So for us, we just don't want that liability. We want to make sure that people are safe and covered. But then also, if they have like bounce houses or something kind of weird or odd, we require day of. And then what was the other question?
Yeah, no problem. We were talking about insurance, then we were talking about bar.
Ooh, bar. So bar, we don't have to have that. We don't have to have a bartender in the state of Idaho. Right. So we are a private property. So it's a private wedding. And so we just have to see the bride and groom physically, like they bring the alcohol, and then normally, because we are kind of on the lower end, they have just not troughs. We have countertop coolers that we utilize so that guests don't have to dig into the ice. So a lot of people utilize that, and we ask that one person is there to just kind of man it, make sure people aren't becoming like excessive. It just makes it to where people see that someone's watching them. And then If they do have a bartender, I do ask for their license and their insurance, essentially. But
Very
yeah,
cool.
it's very different.
Yeah, no, and I was going to ask about that. I should have asked this honestly in the beginning when we were talking about the construction side of it, but is Idaho a difficult state to work in so far, is from a permitting standpoint or from, any of the different things you have to get from either the county or the city?
So we are on the border of, so it's by county in Idaho. And so Kootenai County is where like Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is. And that is very difficult. You hop into Bonner County and literally the city of Cocolalla, we're just open arms, super excited to have a business on board. We just had to make sure that for our insurance purposes, like we had someone come out and just observe what our day of looked like, make sure that we had our fire extinguisher, and we're out in the middle of like we have 5 acres that your reception and ceremony areas are in, and so it's wide enough that we don't have restrictions on guest count. Really, it's just our parking that limits us on guest count. So we've been very blessed, because that was one of the biggest things that I was nervous about, was checking out the zoning and seeing if we have any neighbors that we have issues with and whatnot. So
yeah. In California here, I mean, people have heard me say it before on the podcast. It's very, very difficult. And certainly there are some counties that are easier than others, but yeah, I'm always curious in different parts of the country, like, is it easier? Is it harder? And so it's a huge thing. Like when you can have the city or the local government on your side, in trying to build a venue or serve people in that way, like they become someone who's helping you, right? Instead of like hindering you. And I love to hear that. I would love to hear about your experience actually executing weddings on the property. There's some unexpected things that you didn't realize going into running a wedding that was like, oh my gosh, maybe some learning experiences or processes that you had along the way.
So, like I said, I did a lot of research, and working with students, high school kids, made me very used to like project management. So I didn't have any real like woes. I was ready for the, sassiness of some, this is the biggest day of my life type of moments. Ours more comes on the side of executing the weddings. For us, we actually don't have any electricity out on the property. We run off of a 13,000 watt generator. And so that's where my husband comes in. We have it set out really far off of where the reception is. And so our biggest thing was Dyson hair dryers. Didn't realize that they were such an issue. And so we've had a few times where the brides are like, there's no electricity. So we just pop in. So it was just kind of one of those learning curves. That was like my biggest, like, oh my gosh, we need to make sure these ladies can get ready. And so that was with probably our first wedding of the season. That was like figuring that out. And then we didn't have a very large wedding party until actually end of August. And so I was like feeling good, feeling great. And then we had 10 bridesmaids in our little tent, all getting ready. And we have 20 outlets, not intended to use all 20 at the same time, but we had that. And so that was a learning curve for us as far as, just making sure that we could get electricity to people.
Yeah, so you're mentioning electricity, and I'm thinking, is the property, it's pretty rural, it sounds like.
Yep, we are really rural. So when I say we've carved out the forest, we literally have carved out the forest. You drive up, you drive past our little home, and then you go down. There's the big parking lot. A lot of people are like, is this where we get married? I'm like, no. And then you go up this hill, and that's where we've really groomed everything. That's magical is what people call it, because we've got the twinkle lights up ahead. We really made it to where you feel like you're, I don't know, in some enchanted forest, because we kept a lot of the trees, but we can't quite get electricity out there. We got electricity we haven't built a home yet, but we're in the process, and then we will like I said, we're saving our money. So we are trying to do this as economically smart as possible until we get up and running. So we're saving up. And our next big project for next year will be electricity and widening the road. So
very cool.
Just little baby steps.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, as a part of that and being more rural, how do you handle things like overnight accommodations, maybe even transportation? When people are asking for hotel recommendations, what are you generally telling people?
So when they book, we actually send them all of we have a list of things that they say we need this, this, and this. And so I send them those. And with that, I send local Airbnbs. I actually had 2 ladies reach out saying, hey, we just had someone book. We didn't even know there was a wedding venue out here. Let's connect. And so we are going to start doing kind of a package price for that. And it's just kind of awesome that they're in Cocolalla and they're excited to expand their business with ours. We were super shocked. We had a rather young couples in August and more traditional weddings. So lots of partying, lots of fun. We had Ubers coming out. Didn't even know Ubers came out to Cocolalla. But like I said, we're only about 20 minutes south of one of the bigger cities of Sandpoint. And so that's actually on my to-do list this off time, is reach out to Uber or to those places and see if we can have someone on hand. We've had some people rent school buses in our area where they just haul people back and forth. But yeah, that's been kind of our biggest, I wouldn't say struggle, because we are very transparent. We tell them, we don't supply those. Eventually, in our 5-year plan, we want to have accommodations on the property. We've started buying boho tents, bell tents, and just kind of want to create that community where they can rent it for the weekend and just enjoy. We went to a wedding in Utah. Now it's been 8 years ago. And we had a whole ranch to ourselves. And I was able to play cards with my cousin, who I hadn't seen in forever, until like 2 a.m. on his wedding night. Not his wedding night, but our other cousin's wedding night. And that's what we want. We want to create an experience. Just being out in the woods. A lot of our grooms are like, I feel like I'm hunting. And it's like, yes, that is an experience. We want you to feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. So
that's so cool. And really so appropriate with what's happening right now. I feel like with kind of the wedding culture, maybe like you're not necessarily cutting your budget, but like if you're going to spend money on a wedding, you want to deliver an experience for your guests. You want them talking about something. You want those connection points. Like that's priceless, right? Those are memories that are being made. And so I love that you're thinking in that way, because intentionally designing those experiences is totally huge. I want to ask you a couple more questions on marketing, and then we'll wrap up with my 2 favorite questions that I usually ask in the end. But and actually, let me set you up for them so you can kind of be thinking about them in the back.
Okay.
It's going to be your
nervous.
Yeah, no. It's going to be your favorite part. What's your favorite part about owning the venue, and then what's your least favorite part so far? So we'll wrap back around to that in the end. But I want to ask about marketing. So you said you're between 2 cities, kind of in a rural place. And you said you're using social media strategies. You tried a little bit of Facebook. Talk to me about other marketing avenues. What about platforms like Wedding Wire the Knot? Are you doing stuff on TikTok? What are kind of some other ways that you're bringing eyeballs and leads to the property?
So I am focusing on Instagram. I am a Reels person. Like, it's kind of, I've not ventured into TikTok. I went to Wedding MBA. I went to the TikTok thing. I am too old for it. I know I need to be on it. I just keep throwing my Instagram Reels onto TikTok. Fingers crossed. But Reels, that's kind of where my jam is. And showing older people, they're like, oh, you want a venue? My Reels, like, it's like, oh, but the younger generation gets it. It's entertaining. I'm trying to think as far as getting word out there. We have actually been reached. So I reached out to you, but we got reached out to back in August, literally 5 days before she came out, down in Boise. There is Idaho. I'm going to butcher this. I don't know. There's a new Idaho wedding venues, basically everything Idaho wedding. She has created a website for it. And she interviewed me back in August. It just aired like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And she came out. She's like, I'm going to do a wedding in Sandpoint. I love your venue. I love your Instagram. Like that's where people are seeing us is Instagram. So I'm putting my time and effort into that. And so she interviewed us. We got that. We had a local magazine, Sandpoint Living, reached out and said, hey, do you want to be featured? So we paid for that feature for 2 months. But honestly, being a teacher, my parents owning a restaurant, I've literally lived here for 27 years. It's been a lot of word of mouth. And it gets me excited that more people have come out to our venue. I've been working in our other shop that we run. And I've had people come up and say, I went to a wedding at your venue this summer. It's beautiful. And so it's like people are recognizing my face because I'm on Instagram, but also just that word of mouth. And I know that won't work for everybody, especially in bigger cities. But I'm going to hold on to our little Idaho rural roots and work with what's working for us. But I do know that's not all that would happen. Wedding Wire, The Knot has made me a little bit nervous just because hearing some of the starting prices for month to month and then hearing people's what they get out of it. I am on Zola. So they reached out to us. So I'm using that free. Like I said, I'm kind of I wouldn't say a couponer for our business, but I want to put our money into what is worth it for my couples. You know what I mean? If I have that, I can share that with my couples rather.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it gives you the opportunity to spend that money in developing the venue, which is really, I mean, that's kind of the stage of growth that you're in. You're investing everything you can into the venue to build the venue. And once you're several years down the road, maybe you have an indoor space, you've got some of these different things, then you can start saying, okay, where do we want to start experimenting with marketing dollars?
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, okay, we've got our budget is small. So I was very, speaking with my husband and us kind of talking through Sandpoint Living. We have a lot of people that come into our area. So for destination wedding, we've become kind of this hot spot for that. And so it was up at Schweitzer Mountain. The magazine was that we were featured in. And so that brought in quite a bit of more interest. So again, we just work with, I follow the data. And so if it says Instagram is what brought you here, then by golly, I'm going to do that. So
cool. I love that. Last question for you just on this topic. As far as a CRM goes or any sort of process that you're actually using, like a tool that you're using with your couples, are you using Honeybook? Are you using AllSeated or any other tools like that? Tell me a bit about that.
So I was a little nervous about this just because following Kristen, I was like, I should make my own. I don't have the time. And so I use Honeybook. And honestly, until I can figure out a way to make something myself with Google or whatnot, that has been a lifesaver and worth every penny for me. I got it on sale in November 2 years ago. And I don't know how people, do tours and, it just keeps my brain all together. It allows me to do a lot to, again, market to my brides. I can send them a video. I can send them a proposal to where this is where we live in this rural town. And a lot of people are like, oh, I have a lot of my other venue owners are like, I have them coming out to sign the contract and bring me a check. And I literally send them a proposal before they come to a venue tour. And I've had brides literally sign the contract and I hear cha-ching and they've paid on their way out my door. And so for me, that is convenient to my brides. This is the era that they're in. They want it at their fingertips. They want transparency. They want to be able to book what they want. I mean, you can buy anything online and get it within a day. You know what I mean? So making sure your venue is ready to book when they're ready to book is important to me.
Totally. You're available for them. I mean, it's part of, it really sounds like so much of what you do is kind of tied into that hospitality, customer service. I love that. That's so cool. Well, let's wrap up with the two questions. Your favorite part, your least favorite part, but let's start with the least favorite part so we can end on a high note.
Awesome. My least favorite part, which actually I'm getting rid of this year, was the I used to wash and dry all of our linens and then I would iron them. So the night before your wedding, after your rehearsal, I was out with a big messy bun on top of my head, ironing for like 6 hours straight to get those 25 linens. We are doing a dry cleaning service this year. Woo! And then, yeah, so that was my least favorite part.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Well, you're getting rid of it. That's perfect.
Yes. So I don't know how I'll answer that question in the future, but yeah. And then my favorite part, I am at every ceremony. So I am in the back row. We have tiered seating. So even my little 4'11" self can see you saying, I do. And so that is just something that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that forever, but for right now, I have seen 12 I do's, 4 of which were former students. And so very sentimental to me, very important to me. That's why we're in this industry, is to see that happily ever after, at least for today. So I don't know. That's my favorite part of this business, is seeing that I do.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing all of this with us and just kind of like your whole process and journey. It's a super cool stage of venue growth that you're at. And I'm excited for people to discover Firebrand and just really, learn more about what you're doing. And if people do want to, ask you questions maybe, or even book a tour, where should they go? Where's the best place to connect with you?
Firebrandcocolalla.com, or our Instagram has our link in the bio. I also am not ashamed to talk to you in the DMs either. So like I said, we're pretty easygoing, but there is a link for booking a tour on our website.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm excited to continue watching your growth.
Yeah, thank you. It was nice. You made it easy. It was a fun interview.
Awesome. I'm so glad.